This video will be a walkthrough my learning process. So I was reading upon the collect function in Rust, and while this video won't be about the collect function itself, it will be more about how I'm learning something new. So in order to properly understand this collect function, I want to create some examples by hand and by myself so that I can get a grasp of the syntax, so that I can learn maybe other adjacent concepts and maybe something more than that. And so what I have until this point is this. So what I want to do is to basically have a function that will return a vector of users, and the length of the vector of the array will be provided via an argument. And until this point, I'm being exposed to at least two new concepts. So I know that Rust has the concept of structs. This is also common in Go, and in other languages it comes with a different name. So with the struct keyword, you can create let's say contained entities. Then the second thing that I learned is custom types. I don't know the exact word for that, but such thing you also have in TypeScript, for instance, and in Go as well. So the next thing that I've learned is that I can create custom types. And so my next challenge, which is what I'm going to walk you through in this video, is to create is to define this function, is to implement this function, which will create a variable number of users based on the input. And so this will be my steps. The first thing that I want to do is to find out how I can create an empty vector with n elements where n is provided from the input. Then I also want to know how I can iterate over a range, because just for simplicity's sake, this is how I'm going to generate the users. So also for simplicity, the user struct only has an ID and a username, and so my plan is to iterate over a range, and basically the range values will define the users or the user values. And then finally, I want to return the result. I'm not going to spend time to print the array, because I think it will take a considerable amount of time just to do these three things. So let's see how I would approach this. First of all, I would be curious to see if by trying to go to the definition of vector will take me anywhere, and so it does. So my first instinct is to simply explore what this vector struct has. There are a lot of things that I don't understand for now, but I think it's also a good skill to be able to navigate through this chaos that might seem at this point. So what I'm noticing is that here above I can see some methods. There is also some quite detailed description about vector, which is kind of interesting. Okay. There is also this macro, which looks interesting. But let's come back to where we started from, which was this place where some methods are defined. There is this thing with capacity, which kind of looks like what I'm looking for. So it creates a vector with no items, but has capacity 10. And interestingly enough, I'm also solving my second problem from here, which is how to iterate over a range, which is nice. but so it means that basically my answer is already here. But let's suppose that I'm not so lucky to find my all of my answers in a few lines of code. And so my next step will be to search on Google, because by searching on Google, I also get access to other resources which can provide additional knowledge. So at this point in my learning journey, it's all about acquiring more and more information. And I think I get such exposure to different resources by searching, first of all, on Google, just like in the old days. So I'm going to try to search Rust create vectors with an element. I see there isn't something from the documentation in the first result, but Stack Overflow is always a good resource, I guess. So we can use the vec macro as well. And there is also that. There is also that, which is interesting as well. Okay. Okay. Does it also say anything? So this will create a vector with a zero capacity. And if things behave just like in Go, it means that it will adjust the capacity as you add elements. I think in Go was like the capacity will be the double amount of the current length in case the capacity is extended. So this is also the vector macro. Can I find this with capacity? So this is potentially slower. Okay. I'm also curious about another thing. I'm going to bring perplexity, and I'm going to prompt my current problem. So now I have an idea, but I want to solve my problem now because I'm very eager to solve this problem. And so I'm going to give this prompt because I don't see the case where so in this situation, the default value is 0, but in my case, there is a user struct, and I don't think it's worth creating. And I don't think it's worth creating an empty struct and then populate it. I simply want to create an array that expects its type to be that struct, and having the capacity defined, then I can add elements within a range. But I've actually changed my mind once again. So I'm going to try with capacity just to get some first answer to my problem. So I would say let results is vec with capacity, and the capacity will be count. Okay, do I get any errors? Possibly. Maybe I can do some typecasting, use size. I don't think this is very idiomatic, but I'm in the learning phase, so I guess this is acceptable. Then I recall having found my answer regarding the range here. So the range, I would suppose, looks like this. So for, let's say, I in count, does it work like this? For, I think I forgot something. For I in, okay, I in, say, 0 count. Okay, it seems it looks fine. Okay, and now I want to instantiate a struct and that is also another thing that I don't know at the moment. So let's say Rust struct. defining and instantiating struct. This is what I've already done, and this is how you can instantiate a struct. Okay, so I'll say let u from user, it will be a user, and then it will be id, and I'm wondering if I can do some string interpolation now. Rust string interpolation, and by the way, this is how I'm always approaching learning. I try to first of all accept the fact that I'm a beginner, and I always try not the easiest path first, because it is easier to prompt an AI at this point. But as you saw in the beginning, just by exploring, just by following my curiosity, I'm able to find a lot more than I would expect, and I think that's the beauty in it, in trying to explore where the essence is. So in my case, it was the source code, or almost the source code, and not an AI chat instead. So I guess it always depends on the current situation. If you are on a rush and if you want to quickly learn something, then I guess it is valid to use an AI. But in my case, I have all the time in the world, possibly, and so I can afford to simply search and explore. Okay, let's see if I have something like that. Something like interpolation. Let's see also this. String from Rust string from interpolation. So it seems, so at this point, I think I can do something like string from, let's say id, and then I can do the same for the username. Then I can do results push u, and then I can also return the results. This we have a problem, of course. You can mutate because, and at this point, as you can see, I'm learning from the compiler, which is quite nice. Let's mute. I has not been used. It is fine. Unexpected token results. Why is that unexpected? Okay. And I think at this point, the proper thing to do is to end this video because it got a bit long. But I hope you have gotten some insights from my learning process, which is always, let's say that my mindset is to explore the essence first. In this case, it was the source code of Rust, or the definitions. Other times it might be the documentation. And if my answer hasn't been found with these two first approaches, then of course I would use an AI or something like that. But the main idea that I want to reiterate in this case is that learning requires effort. And this is what you do when you try to read the sources, the initial sources of truth when it comes to a library or a language or anything else like this. So for now, I would say that I'm happy with the current result. I will leave for a different video the continuation of this, where I should find how I can use idle, maybe like this, but it doesn't work this way. So there are other things that are to be learned from here, but as I said, they will be done in future videos. For now, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.